Right again, folks. Let's start. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Awakening Israel, where the most important thing in the world isn't the Ukraine. It's waking up our brothers and sisters in Israel because we are targeted for a reason. Actually, all the populations, all the peoples upon the face of the earth are being targeted right now. However, we're the only ones that can stop the evil son of a bitches. And I don't think we can do it alone. We're going to need all the others we can get, especially Yahweh's help. There's no doubt about that. There's just amazing things to be learned. The migrations out of the Pacific and all that stuff that's being oppressed. I mean, the stories of New Zealand are just incredible. I had the sneaking suspicion that the alphabet for the Phoenicians, which the Hebrews borrowed when they created the Hebrew language, they used the Phoenician alphabet, and I thought it came out of the Pacific Ocean, and it does in a really huge way, and it comes out of other areas. Now, we are fast circling down upon and focusing on who the evil ones are on the planet. All that's going to be coming out. And at this point, I want to tell you, I've made many mistakes because the evil ones do their best to lay traps for us and snares for us, so we don't catch their scent. Can't figure out who they are. But these people have done their best to obscure the history of the people in New Zealand, and they are basically Marxists rewriting all world history, trying to cover up the real diversity. I mean, the diversity in New Zealand, and what happened and who mixed with whom and how they came about is just flabbergasting. You need to listen to those people. I mean, what was this? I pulled up the second video. I'm going to be listening to it. Oh, wow. I actually got a short thing in my YouTube feed of me. I guess I'm finally arriving. Under the Carpet, Part 2 of Skeletons in the Cupboard series. I watched the first part. It was flabbergasting. And same thing happens in the United States of America. My father wanted to donate the gun that I supposedly inherited, which they kiped from me, they swiped from me. My brother did, and my uncle wanted it back. So I don't have it. And at this point, I don't care about it. They want to steal it back. Okay, fine. They want to disrespect me. Fine. That's standard issue in this family. And it's about a 7-foot long gun. It has been modified so it doesn't have nearly the collector's value. But my dad proposed that we make a donation of that thing to the Smithsonian. I said, like hell, I'd rather sell it than give it to them. Because I hate them. Because the Smithsonian, every chance they get a giant skeleton, they destroy it. So, same stuff is happening in New Zealand. They destroy those things wherever they find them. Because they don't want the rest of us realizing the Bible is true. However, I want to tell you, the Bible is just a small sampling of the peoples of the world. It's not about world history. It's not written to all the peoples of the world. It's not about all the peoples of the world. But it is about the fight between good and evil, and it does identify quite clearly who the bad guys are in the Bible. However, there's a recent paper published, and I don't have it up, so I can't tell you much about it right now. Fellow recently published it, and it's a very new book, new to me. I'll tell you about it more later. But this is the 23rd show of Awakening Israel. On the other channel, the Dr. Kent show, I actually asked the question about the offspring of Adolf Hitler, who survived him and who have ruled nations recently. Today, 3 ruled in Europe, 1 became president here. And so that is a big question for me. And I don't think that I have to research it. I don't think it's incumbent upon me to prove it one way or the other. But I do think that Barack Obama needs to give an accounting for himself. So, come on, buddy. Who are you? Who are your parents? Who are your grandparents? Who are your distant relatives? Theresa May and Angela Merkel. And that woman that's in the Netherlands, I believe. She's over there somewhere. Anyway. I don't know what else to do, so we'll get out the Bible and we'll cover something together. Okay, all right, here we go. This is the time that we need to have repeated in history. The time of Judges, when the people were suffering so badly they cried out to Yahweh. And Yahweh heard them and sent them relief in the form of judges, the most famous of which was Samson, and probably the most foolish as well. And then probably one of the smartest, well, I hate to say this, because I hate getting caught in the male-female war stuff, was Deborah. And Deborah was quite a judge. And she said a lot. She was a prophetess as well. And she actually had a captain named Barak working for her, and sent him out there to do battle, and he wouldn't go unless she, a woman, accompanied him into battle. And as a result, Deborah says, well, fine. Then you won't get the glory for it, and Yahweh is going to deliver the enemy general, enemy captain, into the hands of a woman. And that woman was Jael, who invited him into the tent to rest and to hide, and gave him some milk. And he fell asleep, and she took out the old hammer and a tent peg and put it right up into his temple, and bam! Nailed him right to the ground. Not many women get their names in the Bible. And those who get their names in the Bible are in there for a reason. So I suggest you call upon the name of Yahshua. I suggest you plead with him and submit yourself to his will. Ask him to save our nation. Ask him to protect you through all these turbulent times. This year is going to be very, very bad. It's going to have some tremendous instability. Remember, Barak warned us all not to estimate Joe's ability to mess things up. So, I'm at Judges 8. And the men of Ephraim said to him, why have you served us thus, that you called us not, when you went to fight with the Midianites? And they did chide him sharply. And he said to them, what have I done now in comparison of you? Is not the gleaning of the grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, Oreb, and Zeb. And what was I able to do in comparison to you? Then their anger was abated towards him when he had said that. And Gideon came to the Jordan and passed over, he and the 300 men that were with him. Remember, Yahweh told Gideon, too many men. Get rid of more. Too many men. Get rid of more. Send more home. Too many men. And he ended up getting 300 men. And he beat this huge army with 300 men. And he did that by, they took horns and they got up on the hills and they lit fires all over the place. So they pretended that they were many, by having all these fires all over the place, so that it was a big army against them. And they got up on the hills, and they blew the horns. I think they actually ran to other hills and and blew the horns as well. So that's all they did, was blow the horns in the dark during the night. And the enemy freaked out and panicked, and in their panic, they took their swords to each other. They cut each other up. They destroyed each other. And the men of Ephraim were upset at this point. Why? Because they wanted to get some of the glory. They wanted to do some of the fighting, and they weren't called into it. It's like, they were dissed. They were disrespected. And of course, let's move on. So he had 300 men with him, faint, yet pursuing the enemy. And he said to the men of Succoth, give, I pray you, loaves of bread to the people that follow me, for they are faint. And I am pursuing after Zebah and Zalmunna, kings of Midian. And the princes of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army? They weren't too happy about that. And Gibeon said, therefore, when Yahweh has delivered Zebah and Zalmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went up there to Penuel and spoke to them likewise. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Succoth had answered him. And he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. There was a big tower in Penuel, and they went in there to protect themselves because it was considered impenetrable. He does go back there. And he spoke also to the men of Penuel, saying, when I come again in peace, I will break down this tower. In other words, let me go take care of my battle, then I'm coming back. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their hosts with them, about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the hosts of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew the sword. Wow. And Gibeon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah and Jogbehah, and smote the host, for the host was secure. When Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them, and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. And Gideon, son of Joash, returned from battle before the sun was up, and caught a young man of the men of Succoth, and inquired of him. And he described to him the princes of Succoth, and the elders thereof, even 70 men, 77. And he came to the men of Succoth and said, behold, Zebah and Zalmunna, with whom you did upbraid me, saying, are the hands of Zebah and Zalmunna now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men that are weary? And he took the elders of the city, and thorns of the wilderness, and briars, and with them he taught the men of Succoth. And he beat down the tower of Penuel, and slew the men of the city. Then he said to Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom you slew at Tabor? And they answered, as you are, so were they. Each one resembled the children of a king. There were 70 princes. Each one had been farmed out to a different family to rear them and for their safekeeping. And I don't remember the fellow who did this, but he actually went and killed all of them so he could reign over the Israelites. Real weird stuff happened in the house of Israel. And he said, they were my brothers, even the sons of my mother, as Yahweh lives. If you had saved them alive, I would not slay you. And he said to Jether, his firstborn, up and slay them. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, rise you and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments that were on their camels' necks. Then the men of Israel said to Gibeon, rule you over us, both you, and your son's son also, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian. He succeeded. And Gibeon said to them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. Yahweh shall rule over you. I like his attitude. And Gibeon said to them, I would desire a request of you, that you would give me every man the earrings of his prey. For they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. And they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. And the weight of the golden earrings that he requested was 1,700 shekels of gold, besides ornaments and collars, and purple robes that were on the kings of Midian, and besides the chains that were around their camels' necks. And Gibeon made an ephod thereof, and put it in his city, even in Ophrah. And all Israel went there whoring after it, which thing became a snare to Gideon and to his house. So he built himself a little god of gold breastplate. Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness for 40 years in the days of Gideon. I've been reading that wrong this whole time. It's Gideon. Gideon was a judge, and he did his job, and then he didn't want to bother with those guys. It's like, hey, leave me alone. I'm going to go live my life. And Jerubbaal, the son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gideon had 70 sons of his body begotten, and he had many wives. I got it wrong. So there were some princes killed before. This is where we go. And his concubine that was in Shechem, she also bore him a son, whose name he called Abimelech. So he had 70 sons and many wives. And Gideon, the son of Joash, died in a good old age, and was buried in the sepulchre of Joash's father in Ophrah of the Abizrites. And it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again, and went whoring after Baalim, and made Baal-berith their god. It's a child sacrifice god, also called Molech. The symbol is the same as the symbol for the Ukraine today. And the children of Israel remembered not Yahweh their God, who had delivered them out of the hands of all their enemies on every side. They always were forgetting. Neither showed they kindness to the house of Jerubbaal, namely Gideon, according to all the goodness which he had shown to Israel. Abimelech was the one that ended up doing the killing. Pretty bad, pretty sad thing. You know what our government fears most? They made a big deal of this in the headlines a while back in the war against terrorism. They were worried about lone wolves. Lone wolves. Men that were off by themselves that might attack and cause trouble. Well, they were setting the scene up to give us false flags. And they were taking these men that were typically around the age of 19 to 21, and they were programming them up, grooming them, setting them up to use them in mass shootings and stuff. And today, if I had 10,000 lone wolves, it might not be enough But they would have to work so independently, so quietly, and keep their mouths shut like crazy. But they could put a dent in this horrible thing that we're living in right now, which is a killing machine. Yes, they're going to kill us. They're in the middle of doing that. They're intent upon doing that. This is what they do. And if they get their way, they will nuke us. They will nuke us just like Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0, which is in the prophets here. But I think that what we need is to repeat history and have what the Bible called judges, heroes, men called by Yahweh in the spirit of Yahweh, who took out the trash, took out the garbage. And in this country, we live in a target-rich environment. I was first on the radio about 2009, AM radio. And when I finally got my bearings and my feet on the ground and was doing it by myself, I made some things that were pretty profound announcements. Some things which I had no idea were as accurate as what they were. One of those was that I called the FDA the Federal Death Administration. And I even joked that I nicknamed them affectionately the Federal Death Administration, which they certainly are. And remember, it's not a military industrial complex. It is a medical military industrial complex. It's bigger than what you think. And the evil's greater than what you think. And the guys that are really behind the scenes are hidden. The hidden rulers of evil are really in charge. It is a one world government. It has been for a while. The evil guys, according to Eustace Mullins, have censored the literature in order to hide themselves. And they censored the literature for at least 3,000 years, according to Eustace Mullins. We have a problem. We really can't fight them. We can defend ourselves, certainly. But we don't even know we're in a war. We don't even know, well, most people don't know we're in a war. They don't know that this war's been going on for a long time. They don't understand one bit of it. They don't know their left hand from their right hand. Just like in the book of Jonah. No, which means basically they're innocent and they're confused. And in Jonah, Yahweh sent them there for a reason. He sent them there to save those people, to get them to repent. And they did repent. It was quite a mixed up crowd, but they repented all right. I do not think I have the verse I'm looking for marked up in here. It's not in that one either. It's in the one on the bottom. I have another Bible in storage I got to get out pretty soon. Why? Because it's marked up. And I don't think I'm going to be able to find what I'm looking for. But I'm going to work on it here. And I'm going to get some more light. Sorry about that. Because I know I marked this verse up and I know I dog-eared it. And this is kind of important. My eye is drawn to Deuteronomy 8, verse 19 and 20. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I will testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so that you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God. It's pretty important. And the one thing the judges do and have going for them is they're in tune to Yahweh. The Spirit can move them like you wouldn't believe. And they can do incredible things. And we've got some incredible warriors in our country. Sadly, some of those guys don't belong in office when they get out. Like Dan Crenshaw, the word Nazi, who's going to call the rest of us terrorists because we don't go along with putting his boy in office so he can get a chairmanship on a committee of Homeland Security so he can become the head of the secret police, basically, so he can have all that power. Man is not fit for office, and he needs to resign. He needs to go home. That's Dan Crenshaw from Texas. He's functioning as a Nazi. You need to do functional analysis. You base that upon behavior, not upon the names given. Neocons. How are they new conservatives? They aren't conservative at all. They're a bunch of Nazis. You need to understand that. You really need to understand that. We have covered quite a few things in here last time. As far as the cursings and blessings, we have done that. And I am looking for the name. This must be in Leviticus then. The name Barak was translated several ways. And of course, we just spoke about the judge named Barak. And what that means is lightning. You know, like the twin lightning marks of the SS? Yeah, lightning. And it also was used in reference to Satan falling from on high to the earth. Yahshua said, I saw Satan falling on high to the earth, like lightning from on high, like Barak. And there's another really important part in here that I don't think I'm going to find it. Okay. I guess that's it. Leviticus 26, 25. It's not in the language that I wanted in. That's too bad. Leviticus 26, 23. Double witness in the Bible. It's mirrored in Deuteronomy. Repeated pretty much. And expanded. Verse 23 of chapter 26. If in spite of these things you do not accept my correction, but continue to be hostile towards me, I myself will be hostile toward you, and will afflict you with your sins 7 times over. And I will bring the Barak upon you to avenge the breaking of the covenant. I will bring the sword upon you. To avenge the breaking of the covenant. I'm going to bring war upon you. When you withdraw into your cities, I will send a plague among you, and you will be given into enemy hands. We certainly are in enemy hands here today, aren't we? When I cut off your supply of bread, famine. How much are eggs today? Pretty bad. All right. I'm going to go see if I can get this thing. This is Leviticus 26, 25. I think this is what I want. I'm hoping I can find it spelled out a little bit clearer so you'll understand that he means business. And you also need to know that the bad guys draw their names and characters and all that stuff from the Bible. The bushes were called Gog and Magog. Okay. $26. $25, I believe. I thought it was 34, to be honest with you, but and I will bring a sword upon you, and shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. Still not what I want. No, there's another verse which says basically, I will use my glittering sword against those who hate me. His name was actually Barry Sotero. It sure as hell wasn't rock, like lightning or double-edged sword. Glittering sword is how it's also translated. All right, I'm going to call it, this is show number 2023. We covered the judge, a couple judges anyway, and the main principle is that we are in a period in which we need what were called judges back then. These were heroes that rescued Israel for a period of time, and after every one of these, eventually the Israelites forgot about Yahweh again and went back to doing bad stuff, the old ways. And in case you're wondering, we today are doing a lot of the old bad practices that came out of the land of Canaan. When Yahweh sent the Israelites in there and told them basically to kill them, sometimes to kill them all, sometimes to kill all but the women, sometimes to kill all but the women who'd never been with men, sometimes to kill everything, including the animals. There was reason for that. It wasn't because he was a bad God. It's because he'd been working with those people for about 4 centuries and failed to make any progress with them, and they were doing horrible, ugly stuff. And the other thing is that they actually were different lines of peoples that had weird characteristics. Some of them were giants. Some of them had some other anomalies to them. There was something corrupted about the seed, if you will. So we are dealing with similar things today, except we are all mixed at this point. And so we don't have, many short little 4-foot tall people. They've been assimilated in. And we don't have a lot of 7-foot tall, people anymore, 9-foot tall. It's all been a regression to the mean, so we're becoming more of an average. And we cannot tell each other apart very well. We have got some origins that are just incredible, and we're being denied access to that history. That, I believe, is because the evil ones are afraid that you're going to find out who they are and be able to identify them and go after them. They don't want that. Their symbols are everywhere. I think that some things that we could come up with would be very simple, very well understood. If you went and participated in some of these weird ceremonies some places, I think that we understand what we should do with them. I really do. I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It doesn't take much, just good old common sense that we have to put a stop to it. Like my videos, give me some feedback, give me some direction, correct me if need be. You can email me and contact me. Through the blog, you'll find contact pages there. And if you want my services, as I told folks before, I'll tell you again. My services are worth something. I'd love to practice again, but I'm not going to practice under one of these communist licensure boards. They require us to do harmful things, and they require us to serve the evil ones, the masters. And for the most part, we do that. But what I want from you is I want to sell Bibles. Not making much money off it, but I need to sell a lot of Bibles because I want to travel the country some more. I want to burn my money. I'll do it as wisely as I can, as efficiently as I can, and I have just so much time left, but I want to get out there and meet more people. There's a fellow in Florida I wanted to meet. I don't know if he's still alive. There's other people that I wanted to meet that passed away before I could get to visit them. Share this stuff on social media. You're going to see that I've got some short videos out there as well. The other channel is called Dr. John Taylor Kent. Go to that. You're going to get more of a historical, proactive sort of thing. Here we go after biblical principles. The other one, we do that too because I can't separate them very well. And I tend to repeat myself. And I think, well, bear with me and allow me to repeat myself. My memory isn't what it used to be. Nothing about me is what it used to be. So give me a little bit of slack. Cut me some slack. Give me some leeway. Somebody sent me a wonderful tip on videos about lineages after I mentioned that the Paleo-Hebrew language is built upon the Phoenician alphabet. It was borrowed from the Phoenicians, the ocean goers. And I figured out that they came from Polynesia, Easter Island in particular. And it turns out that those people over there, this video showed how they're related in the migration routes, and some of it just astounded me. We got short little white people that had only come out at night, and they acted kind of like fairies, if you will. They had blonde hair, and you got other people. You got redheads with green eyes over in that part of the world. You got all kinds of stuff, all kinds of people that came from different places. You have similar building architectural stuff, similar practices from one region to another region. This last Earth age has been pretty incredible, and we've lost a lot of groups of people already. I don't think they're around. I don't know if they are. They might be just in the bush somewhere. But where I come from, in Alaska, we've got the Bigfoot, and they live on a particular creek north of Antioch. It's not an easy place to get to, and you got to hike up it. And you got to be careful because there's families of the big feet up there, and they don't like us canoeing through their families when they're bathing or playing in the water. They're very protective, and if you got an armament at all, they know what those are. They detect those things, and it drives them nuts. They'll attack you because they want to defend themselves. We're talking big, three-toed, long-legged, long-armed creatures with long hair that are very strong. And then we've got something out in the caves and the Aleutians. Nobody knows what that is. They might have their own giant there, like the giant of Kandahar. That dude weighed 1,100 pounds. I don't know how tall he was. He killed some of our boys. He killed the whole squad. The second squad went out and he killed the point man instantly. And they did him in and killed him. And big dude. Put his body on a pallet and hosted it off in a helicopter. You all take care out there. Yahweh bless.